Hey, what's going on, y'all? Kevin Brenner, host of the Active Duty Passive Income Podcast, and we're back for part 2 with Mike Henrie, short-term rental and all-around real estate investor extraordinaire. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, you don't know anything about Mike, you don't know how he started how he left his career as a professor and teaching music and a professional drummer for some outstanding bands like, Earth, Wind, and Fire and like really cool bands, to join the Air Force and start out an E3 salary, right? And then build up 17 high-functioning Airbnbs and short-term rentals among a myriad of other businesses and investments, one that he started while he was injured. He's just like, let me just start a business while I'm sitting here laid up. If you don't know anything about that story, go back and listen to part 1. I'm not going to tell you again. I got time for that. No one got time for that. But this is part 2. So there's 2 ways to listen to this or consume this right now, as we say in the content world, right? If you're listening on the podcast, that's awesome. Boom, you're here. You made it. You had to wait a week, but you did it. If you're watching this in the Military Short-Term Rental Academy as part of the bonus content, you can watch it whenever you want. And you can reference it whenever you want, and the video is there forever. And a bunch of all the bonus content, you just scroll down below and see all of the extra bonus content in the description, that helpful resources and whatnot. But anyway, Mike, last we spoke, you kind of, you shared your story, and we talked about the cabin on the hill. We talked about the, and how you ended up converting that into a short-term rental. Even just getting that thing up there was impressive. We talked about you setting up this aerial photography business, which you didn't really know. You were kind of just doing for fun. And you're like, oh, people are going to pay me for this to go and play with my drone, that's cool. And we kind of broke last time about one of your later ventures. And of course, there was a bunch of nuggets peppered in between. But we kind of broke last time. And you were talking about this new venture that you had where I wanted to go and provide a really cool experience. So I went out and bought a sailboat and converted it to a short-term rental. So let's pick up the story there. And there might be a little crossover, but let's talk about this. And then throughout this episode, if you want a preview of what we're going to talk about, we're going to hit all different ways that Mike and you as a short-term rental operator can capitalize on other sources of revenue besides daily booking rates to pump your revenue and ensure that you get the most out of your short-term rental experience. So, Mike, sailboat, why?
Okay. Well, first of all, let me say that I wasn't in Earth, Wind, and Fire. I was in a band that opened for Earth, Wind, and Fire. So just...
Hey, man, that counts.
Okay.
The sheer proximity of being near, a mega band is like, that's close enough for me.
They were cool dudes too. Okay, so actually, the sailboat idea was kind of spontaneous. I was out on my jet skis. I do rent out my jet skis on an app called Get My Boat. It's actually a website. I don't think they have an app just yet, but if you're in the Yorktown, Hampton Roads area, you can rent my jet skis. I'll drop them off for you. You can go ride them for $500 a day. You've got them all day long. You can even bring them back the next day. And that was another way I wanted jet skis. We lived in Virginia for a few years before I discovered why people like Virginia. It's really hot and it's sticky and it's crowded and it's nothing like we experienced in Alaska. But I finally discovered the water, and that's when I started to like Virginia. So I got some jet skis, and I put them on this listing, and they helped pay for themselves. Of course, every time you do stuff like that, you've got issues like people that don't know how to ride jet skis, and they bring them back, and they've got them.
That would be me. I'm
they're
just picturing
flooded.
like returning, like this jet ski that I returned that just flipped over and capsized. Be like, here you go.
Yes, that's happened, and then it's like $200 or $300 every time I have to take it to a mechanic to have, he has to flush out the water out of the oil. So it takes 2 or 3 oil changes, and it's there for 2 or 3 days. And it can be a nightmare. But, my uncle told me something very important. He said, the money is in the headache. And I think that's true for all businesses. The money is in the headache. Otherwise, everybody would do it. But to me, it's a very small headache. and it allows me the opportunity to go out and play with jet skis, which I normally would never do because I wouldn't be able to afford them as an E3 in the Air Force, right? So, anyways, so I was out jet ski fishing, which I love to do. I got drilled in some rod holders, and I'm riding the jet ski, and I'm looking at my rod holders, and trolling for Spanish mackerel here in the Chesapeake Bay. And it's just a cool day. I had the day off, and I was out enjoying it. And like a ghost, this sailboat came behind me. I didn't even hear him because it was just like there was no engine, there was nothing happening. And I turned around, and there are these two old dudes sitting back on the back of the sailboat, and they were kicked back drinking something or other, and they were dry. And I was soaking wet because I'm on a jet ski, like right on the water, basically. And they just looked so peaceful. And I thought to myself, man, that is really cool. So that's kind of where the idea started. And then I started looking at at sailboats on Facebook Marketplace. And I started looking in the $1,000 range, and you could find a lot of
to interject here. Facebook Marketplace, the same place from part 1 where you found your RV.
Oh yeah, I love Facebook Marketplace. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I buy lots of businesses through Facebook Marketplace.
Lots of businesses from Facebook Marketplace. Yeah, there you go.
So I'm hanging out on Facebook Marketplace, and I see, a couple of these sailboats, and they're just, they're not that great. And I realized I kind of gotta up my game. And then I realized that a lot of sailboats actually have a cabin underneath the sailboat. Mm-hmm. And that's when I thought, wow, not only could I learn to sail, but I could also stay on the boat. And then, of course, immediately I thought to myself, well, if I could stay on the boat, somebody else would want to stay on the boat if I make it presentable. So long story short, I went and looked at 5 or 6 sailboats, and finally ended up buying one on Facebook Marketplace. And I didn't know how to sail it. But there's 3 things that you have to have in order to run an Airbnb out of a sailboat. Number 1, you need to have a place to put it. And the marina has to be open to that idea. So I called around and around and around, and there's so many places that have great marinas, but they don't allow what they would call a live aboard option to stay at the marina. And logistically, I can't have people stay out in the water, because you can do that for free, but then how are they going to get there, right? So
yeah,
and there's there's a lot of complications with that. How do you get power to it? How do they get septic and water and all that stuff? So it had to be tied to a marina. So I found the perfect marina that has a seafood restaurant literally steps from my sailboat.
So let me ask you this. Did you get the boat first, then the marina, or get the marina and then the boat?
Yeah, that's a great question. When I figured out that I wanted to buy the boat, I told them the date that I would buy it. Mm-hmm. And that gave me 2 days to find a marina that would let me do it.
2 days. I love this. Guys, speed of implementation. This is, if you've heard me or Tim Kelly talk about when you have a new idea, that new idea is worth the most to you when it's occupying quote unquote real estate in your brain, when it's occupying that brain space. And if you can get to a point where you have exceptional speed of implementation, you'll realize the most fruits from that before you get distracted, before something else comes up, and whatever. So if you have a good idea, speed of implementation, and just start ugly. Do it, and you're gonna screw up, and you're gonna go a long way. But if the foundational mathematics behind the idea are solid, then you're going to be okay. And so many people wig themselves out of being like, oh no, I don't have a marina, I guess I can't do this. And they'll back out of the deal and whatever. So I love it. Well,
it's funny because at one point in the conversation, I was talking to a friend of mine who I did a photo shoot for. He has we'll talk about Turo and other stuff like that, but there's a motorcycle sharing app called Rider Share. And and so I have my motorcycle on this Rider Share app, and my listing is the best listing in the whole world because, again, I hired models and I waited to take like really good photos, professional photography. Everybody else took a picture with their cell phone in their driveway. And it's like, it's so obvious. I've got a little Honda Shadow, but it rents out better than Harleys and
How much are you renting that out for?
it's like, I don't even remember. It's like $75 a day, maybe.
So I have a Ducati Monster.
Oh yeah, that's a beautiful bike. Beautiful bike.
And that got me thinking. I was like, man, I could probably rent that out for like $300 a day.
Well, I mean, in fact, in DC, you would probably get all kind. I mean, I kind of in a Yorktown, Virginia, is not the most hip to some of these ideas, right? Mm-hmm. If I was really close to an airport like Virginia Beach or Hampton or up in DC, yeah, you would make a good. I think you'd do a lot better than in Yorktown.
But then I'd have people riding my bike.
Okay, yeah. So that brings up a great point.
Yeah, I know. Okay, go.
You can't be emotionally attached to these things, right? Correct. If you're emotionally attached to it, then when they wreck it, you're like, oh man, they just wrecked my baby, right? But if you look at it like, hey, I know this is going to get abused and used, but in the meantime, I get to drive it for free. That's beautiful. I mean, I'm driving a Tesla and I don't pay for it. Yeah. It's on Turo. It's rented out by other people and it's been wrecked. In fact, I'll tell you this. Every single thing that is drivable that I have, my jet skis, my motorcycle, the mopeds, I've had 6 cars on Turo. They've all been wrecked, but they've all paid for themselves through that process. Anyways, so I was talking to this friend of mine. I went down to test drive his Livewire. This Harley Davidson Livewire. It's like it's like the Tesla of motorcycles.
Yeah, it's a new one.
Oh yeah. Man, it was sick. I loved it. And I hired this model, and we met, and we did this photo shoot. Anyways, I was talking to this guy because he's kind of like me. He thinks this way, right? And I was telling him that I wanted to get a sailboat and rent it out on Airbnb, but I'm having a heck of a time with marinas that are going to let me do it. Mm-hmm. And he said, well, let's just buy a marina.
There you go.
And I was like, that's the way to fix it. That's the way to fix it. And I said, okay, I've got 2 days. Can you buy one in 2 days? And he says, well, I've actually got a contract out, but it's not going to open until December. And I'm like, I've got to have it in November. So anyways, that was one creative way to do it, but I ended up not buying the marina. I ended up finding a marina that would work. And I've created a wonderful relationship with that marina that I help to provide photography for their marketing, and I'm teaching them how to use social media and marketing for the marina and help bring business to the marina. Right.
I love that.
I left them little Christmas gifts and always just, pay compliments every time if they post something on social media, I compliment them and say, what a wonderful place. And so I'm creating this.
Creating value. You're
creating value
for them. Yeah. And that's what you have to do, especially, you're not breaking the law or anything, but they're just not hip to that idea of Airbnb-ing stuffs. But you got to, it's like the same way why you should, if you're doing an arbitrage or an Airbnb in a neighborhood that doesn't have any other Airbnbs, you might want to buy your next door neighbor some Christmas gifts.
Yeah.
Buy him a gift basket. Buy him some gift cards. Buy him something. They're not idiots. They know that that people are coming in and out, and they may or may not have had to put up with a minor inconvenience. Get them something. Just be a good human.
Yeah, and it's so true. I think a lot of people think that this is a business. It's not so much a business as it is a relationship. When you let someone take your car, for example, it's not just a car that they're taking. They're taking you as a host and your experience, showing them how to use the car or recommending some places to go when they're at your Airbnb, right? So I got this beautiful boat, and again, I didn't know how to sail it. So I convinced the guy that I bought it to help me sail it from Hampton up to Pocosin where I have it, and to kind of teach me how to sail along the way. And he was pretty cool about that. And then I bought him some dinner at the restaurant, and then the next morning I had a sailboat, and I'm like, whoa, I don't even know how to sail. And so I went on this boat, and I thought, man, there's some really cool things, but it does not have a microwave, a fridge, hot water, running water at all right now. And so again, I had to go in and start doing this stuff. I tore out an old stove, and I basically HGTV'd this sailboat. And then when it was at the point where it was ready to be like shared with people, I started calling all my friends, and I said, hey, I'm going to put this on Airbnb, but I want you to stay in it for a night and let me know what that experience is like. Right. And I took my wife there. She was fighting me on this one the whole time. She's like, no, I don't even want to be involved in it. This is like your baby. I'm like, Mary, come help me paint it, or at least, come help me clean it. She's like, no way, I'm not even touching this one. Because by this time, this is like the 20th or 25th business that we started, right? And but she came aboard, and her feedback was crucial, right? What did my wife need out of that experience? And so then I went in and redid a couple of other things, and then I put it out on the photography page on Facebook that I'm a part of, and a couple of photographers wanted to come and do photo shoots, and I said, hey, if you're coming to do photo shoots, let's do a trade. I'm going to let you have some experience on the boat, and I'll get to share some of these photos. And we worked together, and we hired some models. And so we've got some incredible marketing photos for this, for the sailboat. And my first guest comes on Friday night. And by the way,
Friday night?
This Friday, my first paid guest, right? When I put the listing live, I had it at, I had the sailboat at the marina for a month before I presented the idea of Airbnb to the marina, right? Because I wanted them to feel comfortable with me as a host first before I asked if I could do this, right? And so we've created that, and it's just been wonderful. This thing is gonna be awesome. But less than 24 hours after I created the listing on Airbnb, I had my first guest, and less than 24 hours after that, I had my second guest, and I've got 3 guests booking in December to stay on a sailboat.
On a boat. Yeah. Can you
and they can't sail it.
Summer?
Yeah.
So let's talk numbers here on this boat. What did you pay for this boat?
So let me tell you my philosophy on numbers. I don't look at those. When I initially think that I'm going to do a business, I don't look at numbers. I think, would I want to stay there? Would I want to have this experience, right? If I can market the experience, then the numbers really don't matter to me. But I will tell you, I bought a $30,000 boat for $20,000.
Okay.
So numbers wise, I have a delayed equity investment, right?
Sure.
But I didn't think of it that way. I just thought, what boat would work for what I want to do? And then I've put in, I think I spent less than $1,000 on a fridge, a microwave, a little Keurig coffee maker thing. I don't drink coffee, but I know that everybody else in the world does. So I got some, a little coffee maker thing, and some sheets and, simple little decorations and some LED lighting. And it's awesome.
So
I'm super proud of that one. It's going to be really cool. So all in, I think I'm at $21,000. Plus I have to pay $300 a month to the marina.
Okay.
So that's
let's talk. So we'll say $21,000 is your setup, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then, it's a 300 that goes to your overhead, based on, and this is going to be difficult for you because you probably don't have much occupancy statistics on something this unique, but I'm sure you've thought about this. Your daily rate and your occupancy, what do you think your gross revenue per month could be on this experience?
Well, based on my experience with my cabins, weekends get booked a lot. So if I just booked Friday and Saturday for every week of the month, right? That would be 2, 4, 6, 8. 8 times 100. Let's say I charge 100. Well, I'm going to charge 125 to 150. But let's say I just charged 100. So I would have $800 of income coming in, and minus the $300 of that I have to pay to the marina. So I would be getting $500.
Yeah. And then you got, you have other operational expenses like cleaning and other maintenance.
Well, no,
stuff.
the guest pays a cleaning fee, and
Right.
and then I just turn around and pay that to whoever I hire to clean it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So you're right. That is covered, but still, I think, yeah. The way I run my numbers on the short-term rentals is I include that in my booked rate. So the booked rate includes everything that the guest pays, including taxes and all the
sure.
whole thing.
Yeah.
And then your cleaning fee is covered usually within that. But I'm sure there'll be other operational expenses. Now, one thing that I think could be cool for you, because this is where I want to start pivoting the conversation to, how do you get other sources of revenue out of this sailboat experience? What
Okay.
if you were able to get like they have Airbnb experiences?
Yeah.
Get a captain to go sail these people around and split the
Well,
profits with
yeah.
them.
So what's interesting is that I also am a member of Get My Boat, which is another Airbnb for boats.
Okay.
Or like a Turo for boats, I guess is a more accurate way. That's where I rent out the jet skis.
Mm-hmm.
So I can actually rent out the boat itself to people that want to go sailing for the day, right? And then I would just have to coordinate the calendars. And I could probably get $200 to $300 a day, if not more, to let people sail it. Of course, they would have to have, the appropriate boater certifications. Yeah, right.
Mm-hmm.
But more than that is I can rent out the jet skis to people that come stay at the sailboat.
That's a great idea.
And I have a couple kayaks that I could rent out. I have a couple mopeds that I could rent out, and bicycles. And of course, I can take them out as a photographer and do, their social media, photo shoots kind of thing. But so there's a lot of different ways because it's local. See, now this is the only Airbnb that I have that I would see on a daily basis. All 16 of my other Airbnbs are out of state.
Sure.
And so I'm super excited about this one. And I think more important than the numbers and more important than, the location or the activities and all that stuff is the passion that you have. I hope that you can see that I'm excited about it. And that is resonating with people that are scrolling. They're looking through, hey, here's an Airbnb. Immediately they'll sense that first picture because it's going to be different than every other picture, right? And then they're going to read the description where I'm actually very excited about sharing the boat with them. And they're going to compare that to people that just want to put someone in their room for the night, right? I mean, if you're passionate about what you do, that is more important than the numbers. I think it's probably the most important. One of the questions that you're going to ask me later is, what do I do for fun?
Yes.
Yes. Everything I do is fun because it's yeah. I just love doing it. It's exciting to me to take something that I would do by myself and share it with the world. My mother-in-law gave my wife the only piece of marital advice that she gave her was marry a man who loves what he does. And I think I'm winning that one so far.
Yeah, I think so. And you got a lot going on. And I think, so I love the passion. And I think, I do agree. I think passion begets profits. If you're passionate about something, the profits will come and it'll show through. And especially in a world where you have to market a product, you got to be passionate about it. And people can tell instantly. Another great tip that you dropped out there earlier in this conversation is when you're setting up a short-term rental, whether it's a boat, whether it's a house, whether it's this, whether it's that, stay there for a night yourself, personally.
Oh yeah.
Stay there for a night and see what it's like. And if the HVAC is humming at 3 a.m. and you would never know that, and like, or if it's like insanely hot, or if there's light coming in through the windows, or the bed that you bought is just like not comfortable at all, or whatever, stay there and kind of do your own function test and see, and then you can go and make some adjustments, because if you feel it, you see it, you smell it, another human being will too, and that could lead to some poor reviews or less than 5-star reviews. So little things like that you wouldn't think, because you're focused strictly on the numbers, that might hurt you in the long run. So Mike, this is awesome. So you got the sailboat, you got your first guest coming in. I would be, I'm really excited to see this thing take off for you in the spring and summer and everything like that. And I can't imagine people would be paying, I think, at least $200 to $300 a night to stay there. And it's probably going to be, at least 60 to 70% occupied, just because it is that unique of an experience, and that unique value is how you drive revenue to your business. So I love that. So let's talk Turo. So Turo.
This has been a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Okay, so the idea of Turo came to me. I was on a tour one time. I'm sitting on a tour bus on my way to some gig that the band is playing, and I'm scrolling through, like the Google News feed or something like that, and I saw this article about Turo, where you can rent out your car to people, kind of like Uber, but instead of you driving, they drive. And I thought to myself, wow, this is a really unique idea, because I'm on a tour for the next 2 weeks and my car is sitting on the base in the parking lot doing nothing, when it could be making me money, right? So that's the whole point of Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, is that you find something that you can turn a liability into an asset by renting it out. So I stopped reading this thing, and I was just on the bus looking at this article, and I thought to myself, I'm totally going to do this. Like, I'm totally going to do this. So I went home, and I actually, I don't even think I went home. I started doing it while I was on the bus. I think that was the rest of the ride.
Your listing?
Yeah, I downloaded the app. And I started creating my listing. Yeah, I went back through my photos on my phone, and I thought, man, have I even taken pictures of my car? I think I have. So I found pictures of my car, and I put them on the site. And I was one of the first people to do it in my area, so it took a while to really catch on. Mm-hmm. Now there's tons of cars on Turo, and a lot of people know about it. But at the time, back in, I've got my Turo transaction history pulled up here, so I wondered,
how far back it went.
Yeah.
And while you find that, I mean, Turo, it's, I used it maybe, 7-8 years ago for the first time as a user. I went and rented like a car in LA. I was flying out to LA, and I was like, I knew about it, and I rented it, and we pull up, and this thing's in the Hollywood Hills, just parked on a like super steep hill. It was like this Toyota Prius thing. I'm like, how the heck do we get in? And then in the description, it's like, behind the car on the right left, there's a fence post. On that fence post, there's a lockbox. And that lockbox it's like this scavenger hunt. You find the key. But at the end of the day, we had a car in LA, and to go around and bop around to our friends' places, super fuel efficient, and it wasn't that. It was like, I don't remember what it was, like $30 a day or something like that. And we're like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
So it is possible. And then I personally started renting out my car in DC here, and I made a couple $100. I paid the parking fee pretty much. It was like a wash with the parking fee in my building, but I ended up pulling it off the app simply because it was a bigger demand on my time to go down and meet the guest, do the thing, and all that
stuff. So let's talk about that for a little bit. So when I first started doing this, people would come to my house, and I would meet them and hand them the keys and take pictures of the app, or, of the car with them.
License plate, the car, the this, the that,
the
mileage. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And if you didn't take the right picture of the door, then when it came back and the door was dinged, and you're like, oh, I didn't take a good picture, and they couldn't prove it. And so, I got better with pictures. But I started this in April of 2018 with my smart car. And in the year 2018, my little smart car earned $2,003.
In the year of 2018. That's all. So
Yep.
you and I have no idea what a smart car costs, but I'm thinking
I paid $6,000 for it.
boom, there you go. So you made
Yeah.
30% on your on the car.
Yeah. Well, and I had already driven it. I had already driven it for probably 2 years, maybe 3, actually 5 years. I bought it in 2013 when we moved here. So in 5 years, I had basically, it was almost paying for itself in the gas savings, because my Toyota Tacoma was like 20 miles a gallon, and the smart car was like 40. So
yeah,
just my commute was a whole lot more affordable. Okay, but in 2018, that's what I made. Let me see here. If I go to 2019, I made 4,349.
so by 2019, you had made enough that this car. Obviously, the car was most likely paid off already. You probably had cash for $6,000. But
I did.
The point is, you're making money. You doubled it in a year.
Yeah, and it was so cool to have this experience. I mean, people just come to my house. They Uber to my house. I meet them, hand them the keys, and sometimes I would still go on the road. And so I'm on tour in South Carolina or Baltimore or whatever, and I'm playing gigs, and people are driving my car, and it's kind of like double dipping, but it's like 6 times dipping, because I've got the cabins going, and I've got all the other stuff. But anyways, and I got to the point where I would leave the key in a certain place, and they would just pick it up right from my driveway.
Box situation, like I was describing in LA. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You can do anything like that. And sometimes I would deliver it. But again, that started to take my time.
Sure.
And I got my wife involved in this one. I was like, hey, these people are going to come pick up the car. If you can just say hi to them, make sure you take these pictures, because sometimes I don't know when they're going to happen. I'm gone on the road for 2 weeks, or I'm deployed for 4 months or whatever. And so she's there, and she gets to take the pictures. So she was cool with it. I taught her how to use the app, and there were some hiccups every once in a while, but it's been really neat to have that one that both of us get to use, right? And the agreement with my wife and I is that after a while, I said, we'll take a portion of this money and we'll use it on the house. Like, you can spruce up the kitchen, and we can repair the deck, and we can do all this kind of stuff. Because I've got Airbnb funds, and but those funds go to those cabins, right? They don't come to our income just yet. I'm still living on the Air Force income. But so other than paying for the cars themselves, we were taking some of that proceeds and kind of helping with the house. So in 2019, the business was kind of doing really well with the cars, that I decided to get another smart car. So again, I went to Facebook Marketplace, and I found another smart car, I think for $4,000, and I bought it and put it on, and it started renting. And then I think in 2020, I think in the same year, 2019, that car, the second smart car, got totaled by one of the drivers. Fortunately, she didn't get hurt. She kind of she turned left on a blinking light, thinking that, anyways, she got T-boned, and it totaled the car. Yikes. So insurance, again, it's the headache, right? The insurance headache. Fortunately, after a while, probably a month or maybe 2 months, the insurance came back and paid for the car. And I said, well, I could buy another smart car, or we could have some fun with this. And my son and I were watching the Transformers movies, all of them again. And I said, well, let's just buy a Bumblebee. So we bought a Camaro, and we started renting that out. And it's funny because we got a different kind of clientele with that. And I wasn't super comfortable with that kind of clientele. A lot of gold chains and missing teeth and wrapping. And I said, well, the cars came back smelling like weed a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so I said, we need to change this. So my neighbors across the street, I said, would you guys be willing to go out on a fancy date? I'll pay for dinner, and we're gonna drive my Camaro, and we're just gonna pull over on the way to dinner, and let me just take some photos of you guys. So they were my models to redo my marketing for my Camaro.
So you're repositioning the asset here.
Yes, repositioning the asset. Instead of getting I don't know how to even politically say this correctly. I wanted to change the clientele that I was getting and have a little more class to the clients that I was getting. So it helped. It like totally reversed everything. And it was wonderful.
Before you just had pictures of the car.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
Bright yellow,
mean, burning,
beautiful.
yeah.
Like sports car. Yeah, no,
right.
I totally get it. Okay, so you and this is, and if you're listening or watching this, however you're consuming this right now, if you are not rapidly taking notes till your fingers fall off, you're wrong, because this right here is something you have to do, guys. You've watched it. If you're a member of the Military Short-Term Rental Academy, you know the lessons that I've done on how to create your listing and how to position your asset towards your ideal client. This is exactly what Mike is talking about. Yeah. Why do you think the first picture on all of my short-term rentals is like kid stuff? Because I want mom, dad, 2 kids, and the dog spot there. That's who I want. And the reason I want them is because they pay more and they don't mess the place up and they don't stay up late. And guess what? They ain't throwing parties. The only time they're up at 2 a.m. is because they're feeding the baby. You know what I mean?
That's right. It is true.
So like, you got to be smart about this. It's more than just snapping pictures and posting.
That's right.
So anyway, Mike.
Then,
Go on. Yeah.
After a while, I said, you know what? Let's just kind of up the game a little bit. I'm having a lot of fun with this. Let's see. I'm going to change this to 2020. Now we made $7,206 on Turo.
On the Camaro.
At this point, I had the smart car and the Camaro. Yeah.
So you have 2 cars going at the same time. And by the way, everyone who's listening and watching, this is on top of the cabins, pre-sailboat, but on top of the cabins and the whole thing. So you got these two cars.
Yes. And then in 2021, we added the Tesla.
Ooh.
And now we're at 10,452.
Wow.
And again, we got the Tesla as a business asset.
Sure.
So at one point I had 6 cars on Turo. But it started to take a little bit more of my time than I wanted to. And so, especially when people would wreck them, that's when the headaches would come. And the cabins were taking more, they were doing better. And actually, have I talked about the RVs yet?
Yeah, we talked about the RVs in part 1. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I now have 3 RVs. In fact, I just bought one last week.
Oh, good.
I went up to Fredericksburg and bought one on Facebook Marketplace.
Naturally, as you do.
You
bought everything on Facebook. You're doing your grocery shopping on Facebook Marketplace. You're doing everything on Facebook Marketplace.
Well, when I was doing the RVs, there's a lot of them in the 30-foot range, right? Where you've got to have like an F-250 or a Ford, or I'm sorry, like my Tundra, something that can pull 7,000 pounds or more, right? There's tons of them.
If it's like a fifth wheel situation, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, not even a fifth wheel, but yeah, fifth wheels and the bigger campers, right? The market is not strong with small campers. So I said, that's where I need to create more of the market. And here's the truth, absolute truth. This is gold ringing in the pocket. Couples go on vacation more often than families go on vacation.
Fact. Because
families have children in school and they have to wait for Veterans Day, or not in Veterans Day, that's the military. The major holidays, Christmas,
Easter, spring break,
summer break, spring break. Yep. So, but couples can tell their boss, hey, we're going to go take a week. We're going to go take a week this week. And so the couples will go on vacation a lot more often. That's why your short-term rentals are going to be rented midweek. In midweek in January, which no one, actually, that's not even a good idea. January is a terrible time for the
Yeah.
business because people just got home from their
Christmas
Christmas break and they
vacation, the whole
looked
thing.
at, yeah, they're like broke. They don't go on vacation. Um, but anyways, the point being that couples and singles and young girls and young guys will go on vacation more often than families. And so that's part of the market that works. And one of the reasons I think that my short term rentals have done well, despite being in 4-wheel drive only locations, despite having to walk up a driveway if they don't have a 4x4, with no cell phones, I do have hot tubs and fireplaces and
Mm,
fire pits, right?
yes.
So that they can make s'mores and go hiking. Uh, and they're tiny homes. So there's only 400 square feet. And couples, again, go on vacation more often than the families. And those are the folks that those are marketed to. Now, the lake house, that's a 3-bedroom. It sleeps 10 people. It gets a very different kind of clientele.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this is so, and again, this is all about identifying your ideal client and understanding who you're marketing to. And like we talked about, repositioning the car and everything like that. So bringing this back to Turo and kind of mixing Turo and your short-term rental. Have you experimented by putting a Turo car outside, like maybe putting a 4x4 outside one of your cabins and putting it on Turo and saying, hey, if you'd like to rent this in your Airbnb listing, here's the link for Turo. And when you do, we'll make sure that you get the keys and everything. Have you done that
Yeah.
yet?
That's a great idea. And I had thought about doing that, but the challenge is I still live in Virginia. I'm still active duty. In order for me to have my car, um, it's already challenging to get a cleaning lady to drive over to the mountains
Mm-hmm.
to clean the cabins, right?
Or the old couple. I forget Mr. Adams or
Oh
whoever it
yeah,
was.
sweet Mr. Adams. Gosh, I love him. I love him to death. But Michael, how you doing?
Yeah, how you doing, Michael? And 40 minutes go by. Can you just clean the house, Mr. Adams?
Yes, sweet Mr. Adams. Josh, I love him. Anyways, yeah, I think I would probably have to be there in order to do that. I will say though that when I went to the marina and talked to him about Airbnb, she said, "Well, I saw on your email, and every email that I send out has my signatures,
Mm-hmm.
and my signature pane is like 17 listings of like rent my car here, rent my motorcycle here, rent my boat here, and like all the links, right?" And so she saw that I have Turo as one of my links, and she says, we get transient boaters that come from the Bahamas on their way to New York or Boston, or whatever, right?
Oh, and they need a
And she
car.
says they need to stay at the marina for a few days, and they need a place to go, at a way to get around. So she says, I will share your car with them if you'd like. And I said, oh yeah, I should have been asking her instead of her
Mm-hmm.
asking me, right? So that's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah. So it's about combining these sources of revenue, and I was talking with a lot of you who may be listening to this. They may have listened to podcast episodes previously when I was interviewing Alex Rep, who is a short term rental guy, and he's got like 30 or 40 short term rentals in the
Mm.
Midwest. But he is all about, and we had a conversation just kind of offline, me and him just chatting and catching up on business, and he said the best short-term rental operators out there right now. So, we talked about short-term rentals and we talked about how you got to identify your ideal client. You got to do all these things. You got to market it the right way. You got to not snap pictures with your iPhones. You got to, I love, Mike, your idea of doing getting the models involved and really just making something outstanding, whether it's drone photography or not, getting really, really good photos and separating your listing.
Yeah.
Then you have to consider the people in your listing. That's so in websites and everything we talk about web traffic. Well, I need more web traffic because if I get X amount of web traffic, those people are going to click on my thing, they're going to buy my product, so on and so forth. Same thing with your listing, right? You can look on Airbnb, you can see how many people have viewed your listing versus how many people have booked it, and you look at that booking percentage, and you want it between 1% and 3%. That's the market standard, right? So the more eyes on something, the more times people are going to book, right? So like just standard mathematics. But the people actually visiting your space, how can you go and get them? how can you go and source more revenue out of their physical traffic coming into your space? So this is where you got to get creative. And this is what top short-term rental operators are doing right now. They're partnering with local businesses.
Yeah.
They're partnering with private chefs to come to the house. Hey, you can set up your cozy meal, and this is all in the shared economy. These are all websites that you can set up cozy meal in my house. And, I'll split the proceeds with you 50-50, stuff like that. So private chef comes to the house, cooks for them. They love that. They pay $300, chef gets $150, you get $150. You're setting up relationships with private masseuses. Would you like depending on the style of your property or whatever you're doing, all of these things are great. And then how can you, as an operator, cross market the things that you have? So someone's coming into, Mike, your camper or whether it's your RV or your cabin, and you have marketing information in there that says like, hey, are you going to be in Yorktown, Virginia? Do you know I rent out my boat? Do you love this cabin experience? Would you like a boat experience?
Yeah.
Some people are like, yeah, I know someone in there. But if people don't know, they won't do it. So you got it. You don't want to pound people with advertisements, but you want to make it tasteful. But it's all about cross promotion, and it's so much easier to retain a happy customer than it is to find a new customer. And that's ubiquitous across all business.
Yeah, no, it's true. I think you've hit on some pretty cool things. I'm going to look into cozy meal and private massages. When people stay at my cabins, I've got 30 years of experience in that area, and so the links of things to do and the lists of things to do is extensive, right? So at the sailboat here, I really only want them to come to 2 or 3 places. I want them to go to the seafood restaurant. There's a Chinese restaurant around the corner. Most of them are going to stay for 1 to 2 nights, right? So I don't need to give them a 20 restaurant list, right?
Sure.
I want to paint the experience that I want them to have. And just like you said, one of those things is that I want them to come to me again for renting my jet skis, renting the kayaks, going for the bike rides, renting the mopeds and cruising the Colonial Parkway, and those kinds of things. So I'm super stoked about it. It's going to be a challenge still because I'm still active duty, but this is my last year, and I'm going to be doing the skill bridge on the last 6 months, and so I'll have a little bit more time.
Skill bridging with.
Okay, so what do you think? What industry do you think I should skill bridge in?
Well, want to know what I really think? As of yesterday, and if you're listening to this on the podcast, it'll still come out later, but as of yesterday, Active Duty Passive Income is an official Skill Bridge partner.
I did not know that.
Income. Yes, now you know. It's brand new. I haven't told anyone this. Brand new. And I'll tell you what, it is a bear to apply.
Yeah.
It is a process. But we've been going at it for about a year now, and Eric Upchurch led the charge on that. So I assume you're going to skill bridge with us, Mike. Duh.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't know that was an option.
Oh no!
So, and I'm already into the 4th go around of approval here, but I'm going to get licensed in real estate so that when I buy the next properties for my Airbnbs, it makes a little more sense.
Yeah. 100%. And that's a great way too to save money, actually make money on the realtor fees. So bring this back kind of full circle. We talked about the cars, we talked about the boat. In part 1, we talked about RVs, we talked about cabins, we talked about everything that you got going on, the businesses, the photography. I mean, I can't ask you to drop any more nuggets than you already have, because these 2 episodes have just been super, super incredible. And again, they're going to be, the videos of these are going to be housed in the Military Short-Term Rental Academy in bonus content. You can watch them as much as you want, and you'll also get access to special resources in the description of those lessons. And if you're listening to them on the podcast, I suppose you can listen to this as much as you want. You can just,
they'll get bored out of my voice, that's for sure.
Yeah. not Mr. Adams though. He'll be a classic. So we got to get Mr. Adams to listen to this. All the shout outs.
Oh man.
that involves technology.
Michael, I don't think I could. I don't use the internets.
Yeah, exactly. That might be a challenge. But all right, Mike, I'm going to take you into the bonus round. And these are the same 4 questions that we ask each and every one of our guests. And you kind of answered one already, but I'm going to make you answer it again. But so let's start with question number 1. What book or software has really helped you crush it lately?
I read my scriptures every day, but I also read once a year these 2 books, The Richest Man in Babylon and Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Every year you read them?
Every year.
Wow.
Well, I have an Audible subscription with one of my credit cards, so I just listen to them again once a year.
That's awesome.
And I think
I love Richest Man in Babylon. I love that book.
Yeah, it's a great concept that just reminds you that this stuff starts by using the income that you already have.
Mm-hmm. And I think it's safe to say at this point, you're going to have a pretty smooth exit out of the Air Force. And like you said, you touched on it briefly earlier, that you're still living on your Air Force salary. You're not.
Yeah, not only that, but I'm living on E3 salary.
You're still.
And I have, and I have been for 19 years.
So
I'm an E6. I'm an E6 now.
Oh, okay, I got you.
But using the concept of the richest man in Babylon, that I guess one of the wisest advices from an enlisted guy was when I became a senior airman from an A1C, or E3, from E2 to E3, or I'm sorry, E3 to E4. He said, "Hey, just pretend that you don't, financially. Just continue to live on what you've been living. And every January when you get a raise, don't live on it. Just put it aside. And at the end of a 20-year career, I can retire and basically have the same pay that I've had my whole life, right? And in the meantime, all that extra income has been the seed for these other businesses.
And these other businesses that you can start taking distributions from if you would so choose, and you'll be more than financially free when you're set up with your pension and everything that you got going on. And I don't think you're one of the guys that's going to sit back on the chair and chill out. I think you have a lot more to do, and now you're going to have the time to do it, which is
that's the one thing the Air Force has of mine that is valuable, and that is my time. I absolutely love what I do for the Air Force. I would continue doing it if I could, but I do miss having my own time. I wanted to take my mom to Ireland, and I said the only time I can do it is when I'm on leave, which means that I don't get to go to the cabins to take care of those, and I don't get to go back to Alaska to develop the property up there. So, and I've been a scoutmaster, and that takes up a whole week. I mean, it's just time is most valuable to me now.
100%. All right. Question number 2 for you, Mike. Who's your biggest hero and why?
There's a lot of heroes in my life. My dad is one, obviously. I look up to him, but my wife has been a hero for our entire marriage. When we first got married, we got a check in the mail from her grandmother that had passed away as an inheritance. And I think it was like $1,000. And when we opened that check, I thought to myself, we were just, I was still in college. She had just graduated, and we had our first house. Our cars were garbage. I had 1,000 ways to spend $1,000. Mm-hmm. And you know what she said? She said, "I wonder who needs this check more than I do." Wow. And that has been like every man needs a woman like that in their life. Because I'm all about this business stuff, right? And she kind of keeps me grounded. She's been there to raise our children, our 3 boys. She's the balance. She works harder than I do, for sure. Just been awesome. So yeah, she's my hero.
I love that. Lightening up a little bit, Mike, what do you like to do for fun? I know you said a lot of it already, but
yeah, everything I do is fun. I play the drums for the Air Force. That's fun. That's a fun job. I love to go fishing on the jet skis. I spent 2 years as a program director in Alaska for a program called Project Healing Waters, teaching wounded soldiers and veterans how to fly fish. Cool. I started that program after being deployed and fly fishing for the first time in Baghdad. And that was just one of those experiences that is a whole nother podcast. But
Yeah, I'm just like, what?
yeah.
I've been there, and I didn't see anyone fly fishing.
Yeah, that was cool.
Oh,
I love to go out on moped rides with my boys. I love to fly RC and do FPV racing against teenagers in the area, and they kick my butt, which is really fun. I love photography. I love sitting down to a good movie, and of course, I love starting new businesses. That's exciting to me.
and you're quite good at it. All right, so to summarize, Mike, these entire 2-part episodes, both parts, and you've dropped so many nuggets. I'm going to ask you for 3 more.
All right, I got 3 nuggets.
Okay, your 3 most important nuggets for someone who is listening, watching this. They want to get into short-term rentals. They want to start a new business or whatever. What is Mike Henrie's kind of, I don't even know, your philosophy?
Okay, I mentioned this advice that a friend of mine gave me a long time ago about living on E3 pay, right? I guess you can just start right now. Just continue living today, and every raise that you get from now on, put it towards something that is not your regular expenses. Make that your seed money for your business, and you'll be surprised how quickly it'll grow. So that's nugget number 1. Okay, nugget number 2. We have to understand what debt is. There's bad debt and there's good debt. There's 3 kinds of debt for yourself that is permissible, right? One is your house, one is your education, and one is your car if you have to. A business leverages debt in a completely different way. In my personal life, I'm debt free other than my mortgage. In my business life, I've maybe I shouldn't say this. I'm a millionaire in debt.
Yeah.
But I have $2 million in assets.
There you go.
Right? So you leverage debt to provide a source of income, right? If I didn't have the $20,000 to pay for the sailboat, now I do, but back in the day I didn't. So you had to leverage debt. If I wanted to buy a sailboat for $20,000 and put it on Airbnb, now I could go to the bank and pull out a $500 down payment and get a loan and start a business that way. So in order to start a business, sometimes you have to leverage debt.
Yeah. And it's not even just leveraging debt, because if you're starting with private investment or even just getting credit cards and banks and stuff, they're going to want to see experience. And and at the end of the day, in my opinion, the only way to really get that experience is to have that one-time courage to educate yourself and bet on yourself.
Yeah,
and
it really is.
That you can do it. Because anyone listening to this podcast right now, is it going to be easy? Both Mike and I are going to tell you, no, it ain't going to be easy. If it were easy, everyone would do it. It's not going to be easy. But it's not that hard either.
No, it's really not
that hard. It's really not that hard.
My son got home today after digging a excavator out of the mud. He works for a landscaping company, and every day he's doing manual labor with shovels and rakes, and he comes home just beat and dirty, and he's got $12 an hour, and I check my phone 2 or 3 times, and I get a booking and reply with a pre-made template, and I've made several $100s. I mean, it's not fair, really, but it's using this versus using these.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So let's see. Going back to number 1, living on your income. One of the things that has made a huge difference for me, I pay tithing first. I pay the Lord first, and then I pay myself. And as part of that, there's this great book, another book that I guess I should recommend. It's called Profit First.
Oh, I love it. I'm all about it. I preach that in short-term rental academy.
Yeah.
My business is set up on Profit First.
And
do you have a one of your accounts? Is it a charitable account?
It's not a charitable account because it goes directly to the church. And I pay that.
One of your percentages of revenue, however much you go.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Right there.
Yeah,
that is so cool. I love that. I gotta do that.
Yeah, and I think that, you know, a lot of people, you say, hey, save 10%, but I think you need to be way more specific about that. It's not save 10%. It's what are you saving money for? And the Profit First puts it into accounts. I have a car account. I have a cabin savings account. I have a cabin checking account. I have a cabin emergency fund. I have a cabin advertising account. Like I have, gosh, I should pull up my Excel sheet. That would be fun to talk about another time. How do you do?
Maybe we will. But I think so. So maybe Mike, I'll bring you on. We'll talk in the Military Short-Term Rental Academy a whole lesson on Profit First, because I can do it, but there's so many, like once you get past like I think there's like the 5 main accounts, you can customize it so many different ways, 7 ways to Sunday, and it's just really, really cool. And that has allowed me, Profit First has 100% allowed me to not only take distributions from my business, but also allow my wife and I to travel to Paris this year, Portugal this year, New York City this year, twice, Raleigh. Like we're going all over the place.
I like how you said that, Paris and Raleigh.
Yeah. Hi, listen, I loved Raleigh. I had a blast. And it beats, beats a 6-hour flight.
You know, one of the funnest things to do in Raleigh is those bird scooters, Bird and Lime, you know, those little electric scooters that you just jump on and cruise the town. Oh, that was so fun.
They're all over DC, the scooters. They actually have there's a fire truck too that you can rent out. And I talked to these guys, I can't remember their name, but it's a converted fire truck, and it's one of the older ones, but you get you and your friends in the back, and you have some drinks in the back. They drive you around. It's kind of like a bar crawl kind of a thing, but it's on this old antique fire truck thing. And they're like, and the drivers are all, they're off-duty firefighters. So they're not doing this when they're not firefighting for the city of Raleigh. They have this business, and it's super cool. And they're telling you about, it's like a historical tour, and it's this and it's that. And they got the music and the fun, but it's like $500 an hour.
Ooh,
but when you split that between 15 people, and you're on it for 5 hours, whatever, big deal. So anyway, Mike, this has been super awesome. We're gonna bring you back again. I gotta go down and meet you. You're so close. What do you think, 4 hours?
Yeah.
To DC.
All right. Hey, wait. Before you go, I gotta.
Before you go. Okay.
2 more things. All right.
2 more.
My brother told me this a long time ago. He said there's 2 philosophies to life. One is that you have a job that you love to do, and you live wherever it makes you live. And the other is that you live where you want to live, and you do whatever job you have to do to live there. And I think that if you think about those philosophies, sometimes in the military, I've had the best of both worlds. When I was living in Alaska, stationed there, gosh, what a gorgeous place. Heaven on earth, really. And I was still able to make music, and that's where I learned to fish and hunt. And man, it was just beautiful. So we're going to be returning to that. But I think more important, my brother learned that you have to learn to love what you do. And I think more than anything else in the world, if you come away from this, the biggest nugget is that it's got to be fun. Otherwise, you wouldn't do it. If you're doing this just because you want some extra money, I don't know that that's the right motivation. I think you need to do it for something bigger than that. It's an outlet. It's a creative outlet for you, and something that you're passionate about. Because otherwise, when the headaches come, you'll give up.
Oh man, Mike, that everything that you just said, I couldn't agree more. I mean, absolutely, and you're living that right now. And so you're going to return to Alaska after you retire, and you're gonna set up probably more businesses and just have fun doing it, because that's what you were saying earlier. Is just it's all about having fun. It's all about passion. You got to.
Yeah.
So, Mike, for folks who want to get in touch with you, how can they do that? What's the best way?
Oh man, the easiest way is through my website, nantahalavacations.com.
There you go.
That'll take you to my Airbnb listings. That's Nantahala, Nantahala, nantahalavacations.com.
That's perfect. So we're going to have that. If you don't feel like spelling that, or you think you're going to screw it up, all you got to do, if you're listening to the podcast, just scroll on down to the to the show notes. That's what we call them in the episode. You can click right on that link. Boom, take you there. If you want the Profit First book, click on that link. Takes you there. If you want Richest Man in Babylon or Rich Dad Poor Dad, boom, 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 boom. Get everything that you need. Get the books. get in touch with Mike, do all those things. If you're watching this on the Military Short-Term Rental Academy, then you're going to get way more resources on how to get in touch with Mike. And it's probably not the first or last time, it's not the last time you're going to be hearing Mike's voice, because I'm going to bring him on to talk about Profit First. And we're going to get really, really nerdy, and it's going to be a lot of fun. I can't wait.
I'll just blow their mind for just a second. Here, I've got 18 bank accounts and, and 48 credit cards.
Look at this. Oh, my God. All right. So that's the prelude, guys. In the Short-Term Rental Academy, Mike has 18 bank accounts and 48 credit cards. And I love like the little binder of credit cards you have. Yeah. I'm looking at my desk and I just have credit cards everywhere too. So I'm just not as organized as you, not nearly as many credit cards. But the point is that, you're hacking, you're doing the travel hacking. We're going to talk all about that in a future episode. So, Mike, thank you so much for coming on. Thank you for coming on as a part 2 guest, which we have it doesn't happen very often. I had a blast, absolute blast.
Likewise.
All right, we will see you again.
Thanks, Kevin.